Hey guys, what is up? This is Mr. A Crizzy here, and in tonight's movie review, I'm gonna be reviewing another Disney movie for Disney's 100th anniversary today. And I actually watched this one before Saving Mr. Banks, and it's actually a documentary Disney film which first came out in 2009 at a film festival, and before being released limitedly in the following year of 2010. So this documentary Disney movie review is going to be on Waking Sleeping Beauty. Waking Sleeping Beauty is a Disney documentary film released between 2009 and 2010, but I'm just going to refer to it as a 2010 release since yeah. But yeah, so the documentary is pretty much the documentary pretty much tells the story and history of Walt Disney Feature Animation, which would later became Walt Disney Animation Studios. And the movie basically talks about the career and history of Walt Disney Animation Studios from 1984 to 1994. Where it's basically how it basically talks about like the during the movie basically talks about like the era between the Disney Renaissance era, like between the years of 1984 to 1994. Because it's Waking Sleeping Beauty is kind of like pretty much how this Disney era started in 1984 with the Black Cauldron, and then all the way up until the success of the Lion King. And and the movie also talks about like it features like audio clips of the interviewees, as well as like and and the movie also talks about like the Disney animated features released during that time: the Black Cauldron, the Great Mouse Detective, Oliver and Company, the Little Mermaid, Rescuers Down Under, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, and the Lion King. And of course, there's also some archive footages of some archive footages that were filmed in the early days, like the 80s and the 90s. And and yeah, and of course, even around that same time in like 1986, that there was also a thing where animation was started to become a new thing at the time, when there was like a new type of animation being made at the time, like around between 1986 to 1995. I mean, I meant to say 1994, because that was like around the time when animated films would take a while and long time to make. And it's like, and of course, like computer animation was starting to become a new thing at the time, when Pixar was making their first animated feature, Toy Story. And 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 of course, the documentary mentions John Lasseter, and as well as like how Pixar started to change the animation industry. And they also mentioned like a few of the president like a few of the like the co-presidents and chairman and CEO of the Walt Disney Company. They mentioned Jeffrey Katzenberg, as well as Frank Wells. Frank Wells, who was the president of the Walt Disney Company until his death in a helicopter crash in 1994, just before The Lion King was released. And and then of course like and then of course and the Walt Disney Company was also expect and that at the very end of the documentary, they mentioned that they were expecting Jeffrey Katzenberg to become the new president of the Walt Disney Company, but Jeffrey Katzenberg denied and declined that. And so and then of course he went on to create he went on to found another and then he went to found another animation studio, which is also the live action studio of that animation studio of some sort. But yeah, Jeffrey Katzenberg left the Walt Disney Company, and so he founded DreamWorks. Yeah, which is Walt Disney Animation Studios' rival, DreamWorks Animation. And yeah, so I watched this documentary. I watched the documentary film Waking Sleeping Beauty. I went on Disney Plus to watch it after work earlier today. And I gotta say, Waking Sleeping Beauty was actually a really interesting, and also an amazing documentary film about the history of Walt Disney Animation Studios between 1984 to 1994, basically from the 80s to the 90s. And it's like how, yeah, because this is pretty much one of my favorite Disney documentary films released. And technically, this movie premiered at a film festival in 2009 and then was released limitedly in late 2010, or maybe sometime around 2010. Yeah. But yeah, so and they the way this documentary works is that they actually mention some many differences between successes and lukewarm performances at box offices from their animated features. And even as they also mentioned in the year 1986 when they released The Great Mouse Detective, they actually mentioned that Don Bluth, of course, because Don Bluth, who used to be a Disney animator, Don Bluth, who used to work at Disney, and before leaving Disney to found his own animation studio, Sullivan Bluth Studios. And then that same year in 1986, after Disney released The Great Mouse Detective, An American Tail became the highest grossing non-Disney animated film at the time it was released in 1986, because it was like how the first American Tail became, even though the first American Tail kind of did okay at the box office when it came out, it actually became the highest grossing non-Disney animated film of 1986. And then of course in 1988 when Oliver and Company was released, it came out the same exact day as The Land Before Time. Which kind of does explain why Don DeLuise wasn't in The Land Before Time and instead he was in Oliver and Company. But aside from all that, Waking Sleeping Beauty I thought was very interesting, and I think the story is set right, as well as like how the people who were interviewed for this documentary from through audio clips. I gotta say, this documentary film was actually well done, and also like one of Disney's best documentary films released that they ever made. So overall, Waking Sleeping Beauty was an amazing documentary, and I'm gonna give Waking Sleeping Beauty 4.5 out of 5 stars. I actually decided to watch this film to celebrate Disney's 100th anniversary and watch it on Disney Plus for Disney's 100th anniversary today. Happy 100 years, Disney. And if you haven't seen Waking Sleeping Beauty, if you like documentary films, then I recommend checking this one out. And there you have it, guys. That's going to be it for my movie review on Waking Sleeping Beauty. And that's going to be it for this video, so make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. And as always, thanks for watching, and until next time, this is Mr. A. Crizzy saying, goodbye everybody, and that's about it. Talk to you later.